The vanishing village deep in the fog-covered hills of northern England lay the village of Hollowford, a place forgotten by time. It wasn't on any map, and travelers who stumbled upon it often left with an eerie feeling, as if they had just walked through a ghost town that was never meant to be. One misty afternoon, Detective Eleanor Briggs received a letter at her small London office. The letter was handwritten, shaky, and stained with what appeared to be water. The message was simple but chilling. "Dear Detective Briggs, they're disappearing. Please, come quickly." Hollowford. Intrigued and unable to shake a growing sense of dread, Eleanor packed her things and set off for the village. The drive was long, the roads winding and treacherous, but she eventually arrived at the entrance to Hollowford just as dusk began to settle over the landscape. A peculiar stillness greeted her as she entered the village square. There was no one around, not a soul in sight. The houses, though quaint, appeared as though they hadn't been touched in years. Windows were boarded up, doors hung loosely on their hinges, and yet, there were signs of recent life. A candle flickered in a window, a single light in the growing darkness. Eleanor approached the inn at the center of the village, its creaky sign swaying in the wind. As she opened the door, it groaned on its rusty hinges. Inside, a man sat behind the bar, his face shadowed in the dim light. "You're the detective, aren't you?" he rasped without looking up. His voice was hoarse, as though he hadn't spoken in days. Eleanor nodded. "I received a letter. What's been happening here?" "They vanish," the man said, still not meeting her eyes. "First it was the children. Then the elders. Now, it's anyone." He pushed a piece of parchment toward her. "This is the last one. She disappeared 3 days ago. Sarah Palmer." Eleanor examined the parchment. It was an old photograph, faded and yellowed. A young woman with long dark hair and sad eyes stared back at her. "Where was she last seen?" Eleanor asked, her mind racing with questions. "The woods," the man replied. "Everyone who's gone missing was last seen there." Without wasting time, Eleanor left the inn and made her way toward the woods. The fog thickened as she approached the tree line, and a strange unease settled over her. The deeper she ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, as if the very air was watching her. Suddenly, a rustling noise came from her right. She turned, flashlight in hand, but saw nothing. Then, from the corner of her eye, a shadow flitted between the trees. She followed it, her heart pounding, until she came upon an old stone well, hidden in the depths of the forest. There, at the edge of the well, lay a red scarf. It was Sarah Palmer's. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. She peered into the well, but it was too deep and dark to see the bottom. Just as she was about to turn away, a whisper echoed from within the well, chilling her to the bone. It was faint, almost like the wind, but unmistakable. "Help us." Eleanor stumbled back, her mind racing. The villagers hadn't disappeared, they had been taken, trapped in this forsaken well. But by what? And how could she save them? Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. The fog thickened, and from the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in darkness. It had no face, no form, just a swirling mass of mist and fear. "You shouldn't have come here," the voice hissed, as the figure loomed closer. Eleanor's instincts kicked in, and she ran, her feet pounding against the forest floor. The whispers grew louder, surrounding her, until they were a cacophony in her mind. She burst through the trees and back into the village, but something was wrong. The village had changed. The once abandoned buildings were now intact, the square bustling with villagers who hadn't been there moments ago. But they didn't seem normal. Their eyes were vacant, their movements robotic, as if they were being controlled. Eleanor turned to leave, but the village entrance had vanished. There was no road, no path, just more fog. She was trapped. A hand gripped her shoulder. It was the man from the inn. "It's too late," he whispered. "You're one of us now." As the fog closed in, Eleanor realized the truth. Hollowford wasn't just a village. It was a trap, a place where time and reality bent, where people vanished and became part of its haunted, endless cycle. And now, so had she.